Hello and welcome to the No Balls Podcast. I'm your host Patrick McDonald. With me, co-host Sheldon Kaufman. Episode 11 of the preseason show for the NBA. Today is the Chicago Bulls episode. Uh, yeah. Do you have anything on the Bulls before we get started? I don't have
Um,
much on them to start.
yeah, I would just say that it's going to be a different looking team this year than last year for sure.
Yeah, I think so too. They didn't have a super eventful offseason, but some of the changes that happened and haven't happened are pretty telling around this team. To start with their last year, 39 and 43, ninth in the Eastern Conference. Play-in exit. I believe the second season in a row they were play-in exit. Um, 37 and 45 expected record. So they outperformed their net rating by a tick. Not significant, but by a tick. At home, 20 and 21. On the road, 19 and 22. They were pretty pretty much the same, regardless of playing home or away. Pre-All-Star game, 26 and 29, and then 13 and 14 posts. So very consistent throughout. Interesting one here. I'm not sure how this happened, but versus the Eastern Conference, 22 and 29. Versus the Western Conference, they were 17 and 13. So they did pretty well against the Western Conference. I don't know how, but they did, despite being pretty bad against the East. In clutch games, they were 27 and 17, so very good. And then in the other games, 22 and 26, or 12 and 26. So yeah, they were on the other end of blowouts a good bit, but they were winning the close games. Do you have anything on the Bulls here before we get into the stats about the team?
Nothing really, but I mean the winning in clutch games makes sense because they had a guy who I know we're going to talk about in this episode, DeMar DeRozan, who's pretty clutch in the regular season at least. Um, so yeah, that's all I got on the record.
Yeah, for sure. Offense and defense last season, 114 offensive rating, 19th in the league. Defensive rating, 115.7. Uh, I believe 21st in the league. And then uh, their overall net rating, negative 1.7, 20th in the league. Not very good results on the court, despite the play-in appearance. Um, Transition offense, you know, was ranked 12th. So they are pretty solid in the transition, you know, a little bit above average. Going into half court though, fifth ranked in pick and roll ball handler efficiency. Very solid stuff. You think about some of the guys they had out there; they were all pretty efficient running the pick and roll. Third highest frequency again. They had a bunch of guys who could run the pick and roll. They did it a ton. 86th percentile. This was their strong suit on the offensive end. Then you get to their big weakness on offense, which definitely bled a lot of potential points for them. 22nd and roll man efficiency, second frequency, so they kept going right back to it because I mean their guards were so good at running the pick and roll that you know they're going to still run the pick and roll. 28th percentile with roll man, so they were clearly losing a bit there. Post ups they were not too bad at. 13th in post up efficiency, sixth highest frequency, 59th percentile, pretty solid. And then ninth in ISO efficiency, 22nd in frequency, 72nd percentile. So overall, this does look like a decent offense based on some of the half court stuff, but uh, they did basically everything else that they could have done that we don't look into here pretty poorly. So, do you have anything on their offense before we get started?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna go into it with the scheme stuff, but like you said, they had two really quick guards, with Ayo Dosunmu and Kobe White running that pick and roll game, And the roll man efficiency with Andre Drummond and Vooch running that roll man. Vooch really isn't known as an inside scorer, more of a mid range to 3 point guy. And Andre Drummond doesn't really have that great of offensive skill set. So those numbers are making a lot of sense.
Yeah. Similarly, 11th in rebound percentage on offense, 20th in 3 point percentage, 26th in 3 point attempts. You know, not a good shooting team overall, but they were decent and pull up 3 point percentage. They ranked fourth. It's pretty dang good, but they didn't take many attempts, only 30th. Again, a lot of their guys are taking pull up mid range shots. A lot of them are very good at it because a lot of those pull up mid ranges are at the pick and roll, but not a ton of pull up threes. I think they can, you know, definitely something that they should look to build around. You got anything else on the offense before we talk about their defense?
No, I'm gonna wait to get into it with the scheme stuff.
All right, yeah. So on defense, like we said, 22nd ranked defense, 23rd ranked transition defense, pretty consistent. Um, a lot of not getting back, a lot of just mismatches on the transition, a lot of those type of things. Um, in the half court, 10th in pick and roll ball handler defense, 23rd frequency against them, 69th percentile, very solid and very nice. Um, then you get to, again, the weakness of their defense. 29th in roll man defense, 10th in frequency. This is a third percentile unit in the NBA. Not very good. Post up defense, ninth ranked, 10th frequency against 20 or 72nd percentile. Very solid on that aspect. And then 12th in isolation defense, 19th in frequency, 59th percentile. Again, pretty solid in a lot of things here. A lot of the things that we don't look at, they don't do very well. 17th in defensive rebounding, too. They're giving up a couple extra possessions. But yeah, it's really their big play that is killing them specifically in the pick and roll. Do you have anything on this standpoint here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that just speaks to kind of the lack of athleticism that their bigs have. And I think we're gonna go in like I think some of the additions they made is like that address to some of their needs. But yeah, Vooch and Drummond aren't the most mobile guys on the court.
Sorry. Um, we'll now go into the coaching situation. They still have Billy Donovan, you know, good stuff. The lineups that they would run there, never really two bigs out there. At the fours is typically Pat Williams. There's DeRozan out there a good bit. They're not running huge forwards. Sometimes Javante Green's playing in the four spot. A lot of stuff like that where your lineups are a little small, and then you look at the guards that they had. Their guards were entirely too small. Kobe White, 6'4", some solid size. Caruso, he might be 6'8". I'm not sure. Um, and then I would assume again plays maybe a little bit bigger than the 6'3" that I believe he's listed at.
Yeah, no, certainly. And what's weird is like those guards, or at least Caruso, one of the better defenders on the team. Um, this defense, I mean, they had a lot of steals. They got a lot of steals.
They did. Yeah.
Uh, they were very aggressive. Um, yeah.
And yeah, this is similar to the Hornets thing. When we looked at the Hornets, their bigs, except here, I think the bigs are a little bit worse even. Um, at least on the defensive side. At least compared to Nick Richards, the backups for the Hornets were very good. But
Hmm.
they're playing a lineup that is slanted to stop the pick and roll ball handlers, right? Like Pat Williams is playing the four a lot, and he's guarding point guards a good bit. He's more of a perimeter defender. The Hornets
Yep.
had a similar thing with Grant Williams a ton last season. They're going to be able to slow the pick and roll down a little bit just because of the lineups that they run. and it's going to hurt them stopping any interior play just because of you know they're lacking size, and then their taller guys are maybe more positionally further up the positional spectrum than uh, the position that they're actually playing. So yeah, this is heading into year 5 for Billy Donovan here in Chicago. Um, yeah, it feels like he just joined the team. Um, yeah, entering year 5 for Billy Donovan. I didn't get much on the coaching staff. This is the same coaching staff that's been here for basically the whole time. So, uh, yeah, did you get anything on the coaching staff?
Not really.
Yeah, I mean, it was,
It's been pretty consistent throughout
yeah,
the past 5 years, so
very little coaching turnover.
nothing
And
too
then
crazy.
I've seen, we've Bulls fans, I think, are a little bit harder on Billy Donovan than management seems to be. So, uh, I'll put it that way. We can now get into some scheme talk. I'll let you get the floor here. What do you have on scheme talk?
Well, offensively, there's not a lot of movement. Like you alluded to with the pick and roll stuff, they would have the primary ball handler in the center play kind of like a two-man game, while shooters or the rest of the players would be at the perimeter around the rim waiting to shoot, or around the perimeter, stationary, just waiting to shoot. Um, Also, they really did not, they weren't comfortable shooting the three. There was a lot of moments where they had open threes, but instead would take a step up to hit the two. So they were really relying on the 2 pointers. Um, yeah, that's pretty much what I got
Yeah, I mean,
offensively.
and then you look at the guys they have playing some of the roles too. Vooch did run this type of an offense a little bit in Orlando a little bit, but he was still mainly a post-up player in Orlando. He wasn't this high uh, dribble handoff guy as much as a Sabonis or a Jokic are, which are typically the guys running this stuff, or Bam Adebayo. But Drummond as well, like certainly is not the guy to be making those decisions. It was a little clunky fit. I think the reason a lot of it worked was because of how good Kobe White played for basically the last 5 months of the season. Um, and yeah, we'll get into after a certain player wasn't playing for them. Um,
Yeah,
was when you really saw that take off for Kobe as well. Um, and then Io was also a part of that as well. But yeah, did you have any defensive scheme stuff?
they put Vooch in, they put their centers in drop coverage, and then like you said, smaller guys that could guard 1 through 4 would usually be around them. So guys that could switch, versatile defenders. They were aggressive on closeouts, aggressive with steals. Even their centers would be Drummond. Um, yeah, that's pretty much what I got on that
Yeah, I mean they're playing drop. Maybe not always because they want to, but Vooch can't really do
because
anything
they have
else.
to.
Yeah, it's almost a crutch for him that he has to play drop, otherwise it's not going to go very well. And even playing drop, like you saw in the pick and roll, it did not go well. So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, and then ball handlers, they're trying to blitz around there with the ball handler or with the guard play. That's really what made them like scary in their uh, I don't know, 30 game stretch like 3 years ago. That was what made them really really terrifying. Um, yeah, and you know they're really lacking a little bit of size on the defensive end, right? Like,
especially when they run that 2 guard lineup.
and yeah, and you think about, they want to run Levine and DeRozan out there together, but then you almost need a 3 and D point guard, and like they did have that before with Lonzo, but they haven't. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, there's just you need a 3 and D point guard, and then like an absolute ass wrecker at the 4,
yeah,
and then they
no,
have,
yeah,
and then whatever they get out of Pat Williams. whoever else. It almost feels undone by Vooch being out there, and we'll get into the stats that show that that might actually really be the case. But yeah, um, I didn't really have much other scheme stuff. I thought they were, you know, almost AAU like out there, but
Yeah,
you know, with other AAU teams that we've covered, Chicago maybe had the best AAU players. Uh, so yeah, I mean we can.
I think
Uh,
that's the best way to describe it.
yeah, they had the top 10 recruits out there
Yeah,
playing the losing form of basketball. Um, yeah, I'm pretty good to move on forward to the off season for them.
sounds good.
Yeah, so they had one draft pick this season. Uh, Modest Bazelis. I'm. This is one. Typically, when their teams have made picks, I'm like, yeah, this is a guy who I did really like, but Modest was one that I was probably a little more cold on compared to his draft spot. I'm interested to hear what you had on Modest.
Um, he's a very good defender. He's versatile. 6'10", 209, 2.1 blocks per game last year. He's really good around the rim, especially weak side. He's really good coming off his man, help defense, blocking shots. He's really good at creating his own mid range shot, and he's very good as a roll man after screens, which is really important considering the offense that the Bulls run. So I think he's a great fit for Chicago. He's able to screen and roll to his spot on the court in the mid range, catch it and shoot it, and he can also drive to the basket. And he's the only thing is though his 3 point shot is really bad, 27% from the three, super inconsistent. Kind of like kind of like how we talked about with like Franz Wagner. Like if he has a 3 point shot, the game just opens up so much for him because if he's able to stretch the floor, but I mean really just not a scary shooter at all, and he's a little undersized at 209, I think, and it's going to make him hard to post up on defenders and also guard the bigger defenders in the NBA, especially if he's going to be playing that 4-3 role.
Yeah, and you had brought him up um, before. You'd brought up Franz. That was a really interesting one for me. It feels to me like with his current skill set, he's too skinny to be a small ball five, and he's too unskilled to be a creating wing. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
you had brought up the shot from that standpoint. Again, I don't know if you had brought it up, but his handle is a little lacking for me to really be a creator at the four in the NBA. He did seem decent of as a passer in the G League, but that was as a primary scorer. I think when defenses can guard him one on one, I'm not sure how much you're going to get out of his passing. And yeah, you had mentioned the shooting. As a high school prospect, he was a really good shooter, and that just didn't show up in the G League. Um, I'm just not super high on his offensive game. The name that always would come up for me is Skinny Kyle Anderson, and to me that is, I don't know, that's not a starter caliber NBA player necessarily. However, I do see the upside if he can improve his handle or improve his shot a little bit or put on some weight. I think he is really good. You had brought up the defensive side of the floor. I mean, he could legitimately be a all NBA caliber defender. He's really athletic, and you would hope that athleticism appears more in his driving game. Um, but great, great rim side or weak side rim protector. Um, he he looks like he knows what to do on the defensive end too. Like he's really smart with rotations, all of that thing. I just again with him playing the center, there is some rebounding concerns that I think he'd have to address to play in the NBA as a center.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think that if he turns out to get an offensive bag, that he is going to be a really good fit for the Bulls. But whether or not he does, we'll see. But yeah, the defensive stuff is already there.
Yeah, and the role that I really see him in his rookie season um, is in lineups with other defensive players around Vooch. Other than that,
Hmm.
I don't know his immediate role in the NBA. I think he definitely needs some seasoning before he's ready. Um, Interesting with him, he is from Chicago. Uh, but
Nice
yeah,
hometown.
hometown kid. Again, he's for him. He seems like a blank canvas that the Bulls need to mold in the direction that they think is best for him to play in the NBA.
Yeah.
Either get more skilled or put on more strength is the big thing. So that's what I had on Modest. We can go forward to their offseason unless you have a little bit more you want to say on Modest.
No, I think that was. I think we covered it all.
Yeah. We'll get to their addition subtractions. So they brought in Chris Duarte from the Kings. Jalen Smith, they signed to a multiple year deal from Indiana. It is a 2 year, 9.5 or 9.5 per season. So pretty solid value for Jalen Smith. He's a rotation caliber center. Um, Additionally, they brought in the big one, Josh Giddey. Uh, so anything you have on these additions and subtractions?
Well, I like the Jalen Smith one a lot. I think that addresses the kind of athleticism that you lacked with Vooch and Drummond. We're going to talk about losing Drummond. But the other thing about Jalen Smith is the ability to shoot the three, 42% last year. So nice little floor stretcher that you didn't have with Drummond coming off the bench after Vooch, and not a bad rebounder, 5.5. He can come in, not bad for a backup center. I like the Jalen Smith pick, and Josh Giddey I think is pretty huge for them. He's a really good passer and rebounder, versatile defender. My thing again, the 3 point shot, very inconsistent. Teams would literally leave him open last year to shoot threes. Um, but besides that, I mean, you're getting a guy that can give you, you know, 12, 7, and 6,
Yeah,
and like any night. Um, Although he's got some, off court stuff.
yeah,
Besides that, I think it's a great fit.
yeah.
I mean, you
Uh,
get a guy that can,
Fill it
yeah,
up. You just gotta hope he never. Um. Anyway, you had mentioned the Jalen Smith addition. I really like Jalen Smith for the Bulls. Um, I think if he was on the team last year, he would have easily been the best big on was probably one of the worst big man teams in the league. Um, yeah, you mentioned the shooting ability. I think he's a better shooter than Vooch, and I don't think you can become much of a worse defender than Vooch. So, I mean, I don't see how Jalen isn't the starter there. Besides the fact that they're paying Vooch as much money as they are. Um, other than that, I think that's a great signing. You mentioned Giddy. You know, we'll see. He'll probably end up being, a tank leader here. Um, he'll put up some great numbers on this team that probably won't be any good. And I think a lot of these guys will probably be pretty similar. This will be a very interesting team discussing their lineups that they have overall. Um, yeah, if you're ready, we can get to the subtractions.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Javante Green, pretty good 3-and-D role player for them. He had, he'd have flashes where you randomly think he's good, and then other than that, you think he's a two-way guy. Speaking of two-way guys, Andrew Funk, whoever he was, Andre Drummond,
Funky.
yeah, Andre Drummond, they lost him to free agency. Solid rebounder off the bench. He's a fine rim protector. Other than that, he's kind of just a rebounder. Henry Drell. I'm not sure who Henry Drell is. And then the two big ones, DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso was traded for Giddy 1-1, which was a surprising deal. And then DeMar DeRozan was a signing trade. I will get the exact return on that signing trade.
I think
I'll let you talk
I
about.
want to say Duarte was in it.
Yeah, Duarte was in it. Um, yeah, what do you have on Caruso and DeRozan?
Well, Caruso, one of your better 3-point shooters last year, 40% from the three. Also, one of your better defenders, 1.7 steals. And we talked about in a team that lacks kind of defensively. Um, Losing that guy is kind of big. And then DeMar DeRozan, he's kind of the guy. I mean, he was that team last year. We talked about the clutch games. He was the one always getting the ball. 24 points per game, 5.3 assists, 4.3 rebounds. He was really just doing it all. Um, Mid-range sniper. Really big loss for them, and I think it's kind of a sign that they're, I guess, trying to rebuild. They're they're blowing up their team, but then also not really going into a rebuild and just getting kind of like got role play. They're not
Yeah,
doing the rebuild right, in my opinion. I think that's in their head. They're rebuilding or trying to win now, but I really just don't know what they're doing. But
yeah,
yeah, it's a big loss for them. I mean, that was their team last year.
yeah. I got the exact details of the DeRozan sign and trade. It was Duarte and 2 second-round picks, a 25, a 28. So, I mean, that's how a typical sign and trade works. With this situation, there was no team that could really sign DeRozan without going through a sign and trade with the Bulls. So, I'm sure they could have maybe worked up a little bit more, but I mean, it's pretty standard for a sign and trade. Anyway, you had brought up Caruso. The advanced stats love Caruso. Caruso might have been their best player last year. Um, and we'll get into it in the Thunder episode. Like he is a game changer for sure. Um,
Yeah,
Great defensively, can actually guard basically
one
everybody
on
except
one.
centers.
Yeah,
Like really good guy to have out there. He's fine offensively. They lost their biggest piece here offensively with DeRozan. DeRozan was one of the better clutch scorers in the league. This was a team that was a really good clutch scoring team. They won a ton of their clutch games. They're losing their best guy in that. These are huge losses. And you think about it, at the deadline, they could have moved DeRozan and gotten a return, right? Huge missed opportunity for them. Anybody can talk about the return for Caruso too. There's been offers of multiple first round picks for Caruso. And I legitimately do believe those reports. Like, I don't think
yeah.
that's super outlandish that
No,
they.
no, no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, I think they've just dropped the ball, and you're seeing here with the one guy that they are trying to trade, um, in Zach LaVine, that they can't do it. It's literally impossible for them to do it. Um,
Yeah. I mean, like I said, and I think what you're basically saying is they're doing this thing completely wrong, um, because they're not building for the future, and they're trying to win now, but they're not getting like win now caliber players, in my
yeah,
opinion.
they're getting
I
Giddy.
just really don't know what's going on.
Giddy's not really a win now guy. Like, he's a guy who
Giddy didn't even
needs.
start last year.
He
Coming
shouldn't
off the
have. I
bench.
think he did
No, I know.
until the
I know.
playoffs. But
Yeah,
man,
I
like
know. I was
Giddy's a
just
guy
playing.
who needs to he needs to still learn the game a little bit and get better. I don't know. Just they're doing a lot of things wrong. They've really botched exiting this era, and a lot of it has to do with probably one of the key pieces of it, Lonzo Ball, just being a complete question mark the past 2 seasons. Um, and then there's been the Levine stuff. That Vooch extension last season. Oh my God! When it happened, I was in shock that Vooch got that much. And then
Yeah.
it started so bad too.
Yeah, and like you said, they have Jalen Smith now, but you're not going to put I just can't see how you put Jalen Smith over Vooch if you're paying him all the money, and he's been there for a while now, right? It's got to been like,
Vooch,
yeah,
I think this is like his fourth season there. I'll pull up the trade
yeah,
is very interesting. Right now, would you rather have Vooch or Wendell Carter Jr.?
definitely Wendell Carter
Yeah,
Jr.
like I think very clearly, and at the time,
He's a younger Vooch. He's like but he's like better. He's
yeah,
better because he can also shoot the ball. Like I'm saying, he's the shooting ability of Vooch, but he gives you the
he's
inside scoring and
he's actually a
some actual
defensive player.
defense.
Yeah, and
Yep.
at the time it was looking like that. It's just people didn't think Wendell was a very durable player, and he still really hasn't been. But also in that deal were two first round picks. One of them became Franz Wagner. One of them became Jet Howard. I think that is one of the worst trades in recent memory. Um, yeah, I don't.
Yeah. I mean, my thing with Vooch is like his shooting is just not that good now.
Yeah, and it
He
never
shot
really had
29%
been.
last year from the three.
Yeah, it had
Yeah,
always
and
been
I feel
like
like
a
he shoots it
decent
a lot though. I
percentage.
feel like he shoots it a lot.
Yeah, a lot more than when his percentages were decent as well. So I don't know. It just hasn't worked out. I think this front office has watched a lot of things that you know.
Yeah.
It makes you realize that not every front office is running things perfectly. Again, now they're in the saga with Levine. Levine has a 30% contract, a 30% max contract. Nobody wants to touch that deal. Some of it's his
Yeah.
unavailability. Some of it's that he might not actually be a very good winning player, um, despite all the numbers that he puts up. Um,
Hmm.
and then if he gets traded, there's a 15% trade kicker in that contract, which means
So it goes
15% of
up
yeah, the contract increases by 15%. Not again
to
compared to the
45.
no, not 45, but 15%
Oh,
of the
oh,
number.
oh,
So
oh, oh, oh. Okay, okay, okay.
I believe he's making like 46. So times it would go to about 53.
Damn.
So yeah, just one of the worst contracts in the league. To
I don't. Yeah, just not. And it's not. Yeah, no one wants to take it on, like you just said.
everything I've seen is teams wanting to get assets to take that contract, like the Bulls having to give up a first round pick. Um,
Yeah.
it just hasn't been good. If they were to move Levine next season, this is the bright spot of their off season. I think if they are to move Levine next season, they'd have 20 million in cap space. I think that's pretty.
Okay.
That
It's
is a
not
good
bad.
thing to see. Their one thing that they've done well, the Kobe White extension. I believe it was about 50 million over 4 seasons. That contract's looking very solid right now. He's got 3 seasons
Yeah.
left on the deal.
Yeah. I like Colby Light a lot. Last year, like you said, he showed that he can ball. One of their better 3-point shooters, 37%. He can drive and score at the rim, and he's one of the quicker guards in the league, which really helps in the pick and roll defense and in that transition game. And a great playmaker, 5.1 assists per game last year. So,
Yeah,
I mean, he was one of the budding stars on this team.
yeah,
Um,
sir. Yeah, so we'll get into the next section here, unless you have anything on their off season.
nope.
Yeah, so around the team last year, I actually want to see. I'll search it. The team really took off when Zach Levine, um, when he got hurt. So I'm looking up Zach Levine. So the Bulls' record last season without Zach Levine, according to StatMoose, let's see. They're gonna show us individual games. Okay, they were 29 and 28 without Zach Levine last season. Overall, they were 43, or they were 39 and 43. So with Levine, they were 10 and 15. So they were a slightly better team without Levine. A lot of that was the ascension of Kobe White. Kobe White saw a huge scoring jump once Levine went out. Um, Overall, as a team, they were negative 1.7 net rating. Additionally, Kobe White was significantly better with Andre Drummond than Nikola Vucevic, as one could believe. And I counted these without Levine on the court. Overall, one of the assumptions I came to here was Vooch sucks. Vooch had a positive net rating with only 2 players, and let me tell you, they were barely positive. DeMar DeRozan and Patrick Williams.
Yeah.
Not very good. Yeah, Zach was similar to Vooch. Negative basically every player. Zach had one of the lowest net ratings on the team. He was -5. Again,
Yeah.
he was playing hurt at one point during the season, I think, but overall he was not very good. Their big bright spot in the net rating department, Kobe White and Pat Williams, plus 3.5 on a team that overall was very horrible. And these are 2 guys that they've given contracts to. We forgot to mention the Pat.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah.
Didn't he?
Uh,
I was about to say.
90 million over 5 seasons, I believe, was the final terms on his deal. Pull it up
Yeah.
right now. 18 a season. Very, very, the number makes you think that it is a lot more than it actually is. It's less than 10% of the cap later on in that contract.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a perfectly fine deal to make. What do you have on that?
Yeah, Patrick Williams. That was a really good re-signing for them. That's a 3-and-D guy again. Um, I think. I mean, I'm really high on Patrick Williams. I think if he can just be more aggressive on the offensive end, he'll be. He's going to take a next step.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a really good player. Yeah, he just needs to be more aggressive. Is
More
what I
importantly
would
with
say.
them, Kobe White and Pat Williams, they're 2 best players probably on the team right now. They're both signed for a combined $30 million over the next 3 years. That is very good, and that really, like we said, with the $20 million in cap space, they'll be able to spend money, and hopefully they can get off that Vooch contract. But, other than that, this is just kind of the lineup section. What do we think their team will look at in the lineups department next season? I'll let you get the floor on this first.
So I went Josh Giddey at point guard, Kobe White at the shooting guard, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, and Vooch. I'm gonna say Vooch gets a starting job just because of how much he's getting paid. But I will say I'm interested to see what happens with Lonzo Ball this year. He did say that he's gonna play day one. Um, will he be the starter? I don't know. What's your thoughts on this, Patrick?
So here's how the Bulls are very interesting because although they want to prioritize their young players, they also need to have their veterans play because they are not going to get off of that Levine contract if Levine does not play really well to start the season next season. They don't get off that Vooch contract if Vooch is a backup center next season. So they kind of need to still play Vooch and Levine. Like, same thing with Lonzo. Like, he's going to want to play. I think they're going to start Lonzo at the point guard spot, and I do think that's legitimately just a really good fit in general. I think it helps them a lot with the fact that Kobe probably isn't a point guard, but he's not too small to where you feel bad playing him at the 2, and then Lonzo has really good positional size at point guard. I think those guys are a really good fit together. And you can say similar things with Giddey, but he doesn't bring this same thing that an ideal Lonzo Ball would bring on the defensive end. And you just overall can't be really too sure with what Lonzo's going to bring next year. I would generally say that I would lean either way. Giddey also did play a lot of power forward last year.
Yeah. but that's shy. They had shy, so like
Yeah,
you know.
I don't know. I could see both of them starting if Levine's not healthy. He had foot surgery at the end of the year. Um, yeah, I think he'll be back before training camp though.
Yeah. I mean, I think if Ball is healthy, I think he's better than Giddy because you said he brings it more on the defensive side. He also brings it a lot more on the offensive side, especially from the 3 point line. Last year, the last year he played, he shot 42% from three.
And he was
So I
solid in
mean,
the
and he's
playoffs
also
too.
yeah, and he's like not a triple double threat, but 5 and 5, like a mini triple. You know, like the mini triple double
Yeah,
threat, like 14, 6, and 8. Like this is a guy that can get rebounds, like you said, really good positional size, and he's also I think he's a better playmaker and passer overall than Giddy.
yeah,
Um,
and
I think that gives you a true point guard running the offense.
it is an interesting thing here too because it's two point guards who neither of them have really any scoring gravity, but they're really good fundamental passers. So it's hard for them
Mm-hmm.
to generate easy looks for teammates, but when they do connect on generating those open teammates. Um, Lonzo struggles to get to the rim, like even before his knee exploded. So I am a little concerned on that standpoint. Um, but then Kobe is, kind of relentless attacking the rim. Just, I'm interested in what happens here. Another guy we didn't mention, Ayo Dosunmu. He did show a lot as a volume scorer last season. If I were to have to predict the next Derek White, like the player that I might, you know, people might realize he's really good if he's on another team, it's Ayo. I don't think he's going to really be that much for the Bulls, but I think if I just want to see him on another team that
Yeah,
really need his skill set because he's a great defender and a pretty solid 3 point shooter, solid passer. He's a good
yeah,
player.
no, yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. I like Io a lot. I remember, I think it was either this year when he first came into the league. The Bulls wanted him to be the starting point guard, kind of moving forward. I think he did start a lot of games last. I think he basically did start. He was their starting point guard or small shooting guard last year. Like you said, really good 3 point shooter, really good defender, and he has a little bit of he's a playmaking upside. So yeah, he's not gonna have a big role in the Bulls, but I think if he went somewhere else, he'd
Yeah,
do very well.
I'm really interested in the Levine Kobe White fit together because I'm not sure if they can really play together because I think they're really similar players when it comes down to it. What do you have on that aspect?
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. And like you said, Zach Levine in general doesn't mesh well with the team, like in the numbers you brought up earlier. So I mean, it's gonna I it's a weird fit, um, especially if you have Giddy out there. Yeah, I don't know. It's gonna be definitely interesting to see, but I don't. Looking at it right now, it's not looking like it's gonna be the best fit.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, you can kind of tell by the tone we have around this team. Um, you know, not a great looking season coming up here. If you have anything else, we can hit on it real quick. But other than that, I think I'm ready to head towards the predictions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so for this season, overall, it's probably going to be a bottom out season for the team. I don't see them pushing for the play-in again like they have the last two seasons. Um, yeah, I don't see this really being a good team in the Eastern Conference this season. And then my answer for did they get better this year is absolutely not. I think they got significantly worse this offseason. What do you have on
Yeah,
that?
I agree. They they're gonna be they're gonna be in the bottom of the barrel. They did get worse. They like we said, they're in purgatory right now. It's like the one place all fans hate what their team is in. They're not trying to rebuild, and they don't have a good enough team to compete. just a really bad situation for the Bulls, and it's kind of a situation they've been in for a while. Um, yeah, that's all I got.
And I really hope that this team proves to the front office that they do need to rebuild. Hope that's the
Yeah.
case. I hope they try to push for the plan, and then they realize they just absolutely cannot do it. So then they
Mm-hmm.
enter a full rebuild. Overall, offensive MVP for them. I mean, for me, I had Kobe White. I don't know what you had. You had the same.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I'm Kobe. Yeah, I'm going Kobe White.
Yeah. I mean, he's really athletic, and he's a decent pull-up mid-range shooter. His three-point shot came along a lot last season. Um, you know, his scoring allows him to create some playmaking opportunities. I'm not sure how great he actually is at playmaking yet, but we'll see. Um, at the very least, I think he's better than Zach LaVine a couple seasons ago was at the playmaking side of things. So I think Kobe should really be the focal point of their offense still, even with LaVine coming back. So I don't think he's necessarily going to be a great player in the landscape of the entire league next year, but um, he's definitely going to be their best offensive player for me, I think.
Yeah, I agree, 100%.
What'd
I
you
think.
have on
Yeah,
defense? Or you can
defensive MVP.
hit the Kobe point you were
Oh,
saying.
oh no, I was. Um, I don't even remember it.
All right.
Um, but for defensive MVP, there's a couple of guys I was thinking of. I was really looking at some of the guards like Ayo Dosunmu. But I'm gonna go Patrick Williams. I think a sleeper could be Matas if he actually gets playing time. Um, I think he's a really good rim protector. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't
who do you
know what
got?
to do with them. I just went Pat
Yeah.
Williams because I think that's what's most likely going to happen. If Lonzo's Lonzo, it's Lonzo for sure. Other than that, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like a team that's very devoid of individual defensive talent. I think Io's pretty solid out there. Williams is pretty solid, but other than that, it's a bunch of guys who just aren't that great at it. Um, we we had brought up Jalen earlier, Jalen Williams or Jalen, uh, Jalen
Smith.
Jalen Smith. There we go. I said the wrong generic name. Yeah, we brought up Jalen
Not your
Smith
kid.
earlier. He's a better rim protector than Vooch, but I'm not sure how great he actually is at rim protecting. I think it's going to be Pat Williams probably. Um, yeah, what do you have on X Factor?
I mean, I think it's Lonzo Ball and his health, pretty much. I guess if you want to say Zach LaVine, you can, but this is a guy that's been out for two, 2.5 seasons. Um, and I mean, this was the guy that was supposed to be, kind of the face of your franchise, and it's just been not the not a very good romance. But if he's gonna play and if he can put up, numbers like he did in his final season, this is a playing team. This is a solid playing team, I think.
Yeah, if you
If
get
if Lonzo Ball can give you what Lonzo Ball should, this is a solid 9 seed. I mean, I
maybe,
think
yeah,
that's what I got.
um,
Maybe a solid 9 seed.
yeah.
What do you got?
For that reason, I will actually say Lonzo because before I was swinging between a couple of guys, but yeah, you convinced me. If Lonzo Ball plays like 2021, 30-game stretch Lonzo Ball, this is probably a 9 seed team. Um, how likely that is to happen, I'm not sure. I feel like he'll just be probably like 70% of what that player was. Um,
Yeah,
other than that, I did think about Levine because maybe Levine plays better next year, but I don't know. We kind of know what Levine is at this point. And then
yeah,
the other one for me was Modest because maybe Modest is actually a really good NBA player day one. You know, maybe not in the department where he averages 16 and 10, but maybe he
yeah,
actually is like a box score impact guy, like an Alex Caruso. Maybe in a different way, but in that capacity of being good. So, other than that, Um, yeah. What else do you have here before we kind of go ahead and wrap it up?
I mean, nothing really. It's just kind of just a weird, like just made
Yeah,
it sad, honestly. Just like looking at them, just they're
I
kind of stuck right now. I would say.
I really hope that if when we do the Bulls next season, that ownership has chosen a different direction with this team in either way. Because right now
Yeah,
to me, they're like looking like they want to try to compete for the play-in, but then I don't even know if they're good enough to beat the play-in. So
yeah. I think the best case is just whenever that Levine contract. I don't know when it's up, but I think that's when they'll finally take a real like defining move of the future, whether they'll build now or
knowing
really like a long
knowing the Bulls,
rebuild.
they'll end up extending Levine for a slight pay cut, but um, yeah, that's all I have on the Bulls. Um, yeah, next episode will be the Cavs. Um, yeah, I'm host Patrick McDonald, co-host Sheldon Kaufman. We are signing off until the next episode.